Baruch Hashem. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Raya and Mordechai, for hosting this year and editing it later, and posting it onto our YouTube channel. This week is Parashat Vayishlach, and this Shabbos is going to be a special Shabbos, the Chag HaGeula, the holiday of redemption of the Alter Rebbe. Everyone's invited to join us for a special Kiddush and a Cholent at Chabad on Shabbos in honor of the special day and a special Farbrengen. So the Alter Rebbe talks about connecting the current events with a Parsha. And so it shouldn't be too difficult. And hopefully we're going to try to stand up to this challenge to connect this week's Parsha with the war in which we find ourselves. Yes, we're still in the middle of a war. Torah says, because ultimately, ultimately Torah is the one that tells us how to lead our lives, and especially in crucial times as in which we find ourselves now. Yaakov prepares himself for approaching Esav with three things: ledoron, with gifts; letfilah, for prayer; ulemilchama, and for war. It's important for us to remember that when we prepare to do anything in life, we have to diversify. It's a very healthy thing not to put all of your eggs in the same in one basket. And so Yaakov Avinu teaches us how to approach Esav. Some would come along with the approach, let's try to appease Esav. Some people would maybe take the approach, oh, let's daven to Hashem and just forget about everything else. Others would take the approach, let's wage war. Only war. And so Yaakov comes along and teaches us that even when it comes to an enemy which is about to eradicate him, even though he's his own brother, you have to diversify. So let's do one thing at a time. Am Yisroel, by nature, we are Rachmanim, Baishanim, and Gomlei Chasadim. Rachmanim means merciful, Baishanim means bashful, and Gomlei Chasadim, we do kind acts one with another. So being that we are supposed to be soft-natured, kind, generous, so the first thing that comes to Yaakov's mind is ledoron. He prepares a bunch of animals and gifts to give to Esav. The moment that he sees gifts, he's not expecting gifts from Yaakov. Yaakov has been his arch enemy, unfortunately. And so right away, that's supposed to mellow his heart. Then you have letfilah, davening. Yaakov says, you know what? I have to daven, because ultimately HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's going to protect me. I have to plan. I have to do whatever I can in nature. But ultimately, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we know, Hashem ish milchama. Hashem is the individual of war. We know that it says, Hashem yilachem lachem, right before the crossing of the Yam Suf, when the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, came to oppose Yaakov, to oppose Am Yisrael. Hashem said, it says in the Torah, and Moshe said it, Hashem yilachem lachem, Hashem will wage your war. V'atem tachrishun, and you will be quiet. In other words, Hashem is the one who ultimately, the commander-in-chief, that's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's called Tzivot Hashem, the army of Hashem. At the same time, Yaakov says, I have to be ready, I have to have a backup plan of milchama, of war. In the same thing we can translate also in our current situation, when we are supposed to counter and totally eradicate the enemies. Number one, we're human beings. We're Am Yisrael. We're special. And we try to to be that our natural. Here's the point that I'm trying to bring out. I'm missing the words, but I'm going to try. Our natural instinct as being Am Yisroel, as being the Jewish nation, is that we are, in the depths of our heart, we are Rachmanim, merciful, Baishanim, bashful, V'gomlei Chasadim. So it's almost as if we have it intrinsically inside of us. And so in the right time, we have to try. We have to prepare. I'm going to get back to this in a minute. I just want to finish off this thought. The number 2 is tefillah, davening. We have to daven to Hashem. We have to say Tehillim, non-stop Tehillim. We have to say Tehillim, especially chapter 150, as the Rebbe said in 1990, when he found out that the PLO wanted to kill him. The Rebbe said that everybody should say, at least, the Rebbe said we should do 3 chapters of Tehillim every day, including 150, the final chapter. It's a short chapter. And so, more than that, we can do the Tehillim of the day, the day of the week, we could do Tehillim of the day of the month, and you could just say non-stop Tehillim. Whenever we daven, whenever we learn, we have to focus on Hashem, pleading by Hashem that He should help us totally eradicate the enemy, just like by Amalek. By Amalek, there's no half an enemy, 3/4 of an enemy. The entire enemy has to be eradicated. The Tzemach Tzedek said that if we would know the power of saying Tehillim, we would simply say Tehillim all day. So whenever we have a chance, we should be saying Tehillim. Then we have Milchama, that's the war. The war is W-A-R. That's very, very simply and straightforward put. On one hand, we say we have to diversify. On the other hand, when each and one of these 3 points needs to be done, it needs to be done properly, not half and not 3/4, not even 99%. The war has to be done to the gifts that I talked about earlier. When I say a gift, the way I personally, humbly understand this to be in our case, is that it's enough that we have it in our hearts. There's no any type of gestures that one may suggest that we should give to the enemy, and that the enemy will sort of come around like Esav did. That's been done a long time ago. Many times too often. It is clear that this enemy is not interested in receiving any gestures whatsoever. Even look at this recent quote-unquote prisoner swap. It's supposed to be proportionally, no? So we're giving, they want us to stop fighting. Well, what are they going to give us? We have to give them, what do we have to give them in turn?
3
Number 1, prisoner swaps, which is not even prisoners, it's murderers. Second of all, it's not 1 for 1, it's several for 1. And third of all, the fact itself that we're stopping in stopping the fight, that itself is something which we're quote unquote giving to them. So I would suffice, here's the bottom line. When it comes to the gifts, I would say that it's enough to have the feeling that's in our hearts. We have the feeling of compassion, and I'm sure that in the right moment, it's brought out. And malasot, there's nothing to do about it, because at the end of the day, we are Am Yisrael. What we do have to remind ourselves is the other side. We have to remember the pictures and the images and the video of what happened on Simchat Torah, and hopefully that will strengthen us to put this feeling, quote unquote, of being kind, to only use it in the right time, not to use it in the wrong time. The problem is when we use this, the phrase goes in Hebrew that if someone is compassionate for someone who is cruel, then they're going to end up being cruel for the compassionate. So it's enough what we've tried in the past. Right now, we have to focus on the davening. We have to focus on the war. We have to focus on 100%. Then comes another issue. The other issue is Yaakov's name. Yaakov's name is Yud, Ayin, Kuf, Vet, which can be divided into two words, Yud, the letter Yud, and Akev. Akev means a heel. Yaakov's life was a life of struggle. And therefore, unfortunately, he had a lot of troubles in his life, and his mission in the world to stay afloat above the challenges. It was almost like he had a life of challenges and struggles and war, quote unquote. But then you have the angel, when he actually struggles with the Sar, with the minister of Esav, the minister compliments him and he says, now I'm going to call your name Yisroel. Yisroel can be divided into a number of ways, but let's say, well, the reason why is because he himself says, and it says in the Torah, Kisarita im Elokim v'manashim v'tuchal, because you ministered over an angel and over men, and you were successful. And you can see that in the word Yisrael. Yisrael is Yud, that same Yud of the Yaakov. Sar, minister, Kel, Aleph Lamed, of Hashem. So it's in a whole other perspective. There are two ways of how to deal with challenges. There's the way of Yaakov and there's the way of Yisroel. Generally speaking, they're both the name of one person. He said, from now on, your name will be Yisrael. Nonetheless, we see that the Torah still keeps on calling him by the name of Yaakov. And so, what are these two approaches? The two approaches are, which is important to remember, it doesn't take away at all from what I said in the first part of the share. I still want to focus on another perspective, and that is that the approach of Yaakov for challenges and war is to get into it, to get down and dirty, not to be afraid, and to get involved face to face with a struggle with the enemy. If you come from a Yisroel perspective, that's a different perspective. It doesn't have to be either this or that. But the fact is that the approach of Yisroel is almost like from above. In other words, we realize that there is a challenge, but we don't get face to face with the enemy. You take care of it from above. You take care of it from the minister, so to speak, that the Yud is the minister of Hashem, and that totally eradicates the enemy, but from a much higher perspective, not getting hand in hand, face to face with the enemy, rather to take care of from above. And we could expand on this much more, but I'm just trying to get to the point. How would we translate this to be in our war? I would suggest that it would be much better not to send our soldiers in by foot, but to eradicate the enemy from above, because that is one of the most important things, not to endanger our soldiers. And of course, the army is trying, but I believe that they can do much more to have the approach of Yisroel instead of Yaakov. Yaakov is important. It's important to get ready for war, as we said earlier. I'm not getting away from that. All I'm saying is that if we can eradicate the evil from above, then that's much better. And we see this often in other wars, the way America waged war in Afghanistan. Many, many times they bombed from above, and all of a sudden you heard the next day in the news that there was a wedding of 400 people. They were all killed in this bomb. Oh, they said, oh, this is a mistake. We're very sorry, we made a mistake. Well, obviously we're not supposed to be making mistakes, but at the end of the day, to eradicate the evil, not to send our foot soldiers as much as possible to be safe, to keep our soldiers safe. and to invest our energy in all of the technology that we have. Some of the technology of warfare we have even more than other countries. And let's hope and pray to Hashem that every person does their own job in eradicating the evil. And that's part of the message of today's class, that we have to diversify. That some efforts go into this, some efforts go into that. And so, the same thing is by us. Some people are supposed to be focused more on one part of eradicating the evil, others on other parts, and together that makes us the beautiful Am Yisrael that we are. And Bezrat Hashem, we should merit that all of our soldiers should come home immediately, safely, and the eradication of the evil should happen extremely quickly, and we should have Mashiach Tzidkenu, Amen v'Amen. Thank you all. Thank you so much. All the best. Oh, I should mention that tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 8 at Chabad of Rechavia, we have 4 shiurim, 4 classes on the subject of Chassidus in connection with war. All the best.